It's Friday, August 6th, and yesterday, Ibraham Raisi was sworn in as the new president of Iran. Now, Raisi is a tough cookie. In his earlier days, he actually was the executioner of many people who were deemed to be radicals under the strict Iranian theological rule. Now, I don't really know what the president does in Iran, since the ayatollah controls everything. So the president is going to do whatever the ayatollah tells him to do. President in Iran is nothing more than a lackey for the ayatollah. And Raisi was elected because the ayatollah wanted him to be elected. So that's the situation. Now, Iran is a country in turmoil. Iran is currently suffering from the worst drought in more than 50 years. Water is scarce, power outages are frequent, and the coronavirus is raging through the country rapidly. Meanwhile, they have inflation, and much of that inflation is caused by the pressure of the U.S. sanctions. So there's many Iranians in the country that are demoralized and are exhausted from this long, continuous battle with the West and with many of its adversaries in the Middle East. So that's what Raisi faces. That's a monumental challenge. And you know something? He can't really do diddly about it, since the Ayatollah pulls all the strings. So I don't know exactly what the president's job is in Iran, because he's only, in my mind, a figurehead, and he will execute whatever policies the Ayatollah wants him to execute. And then there are protests that are going on around the country, and that's a dangerous country to protest in, because they don't think anything of hauling you off the street, dumping you in prison for 15 or 20 years for some minor infraction, and maybe even killing you. It is not easy to live in a country like Iran. Now, according to the counting estimates, he didn't get a very big popular vote. Only 48% of the people voted, and maybe 95% of them all voted for him because the Ayatollah said so. So that's just an indication of what's going on in that country. And I don't think that there are many Iranians that are holding out much hope that things will change for the better with this new president. I think there's got to be a place of desperation. It's amazing that the people of Iran managed to stay there. I would think by now a lot of them would be trying to escape from that country. But I can't say that they are trying or they're not trying, because we really don't know what goes on in that country. I haven't seen any reports or anything that say there's a mass migration to somewhere else. And where the hell else would they go? I am sure that in the minds of the people in this country who care about what happens in Iran, it's the nuclear deal that everybody will probably be talking about and worrying about. I, for one, wouldn't worry about it. I, for one, would just say, piss off. I don't want to be in that deal anymore. Now, Raisi has promised that he's going to raise the economic situation to something livable. But in order for him to get that done, the U.S. has to lift the sanctions. And we're not going to lift the sanctions. I hope we're not going to lift the sanctions. I wouldn't lift the sanctions. Would I lift the sanctions to get back into the nuclear deal? No. Who wants those people to ever get near a nuclear weapon? Who even ever believed their stories about peaceful nuclear energy or electricity, etc. Not me, not anybody that I know. Now, under Rouhani, the previous president, Mohammad Zarif was the foreign minister, and he was a long-time diplomat. And he lived in the U.S. for over 20 years, too. So he knew the U.S., and he understood it. But he's gone. He's not working for this administration anymore. And Raisi has very little, if any, foreign diplomatic experience. So this is going to be a nasty change for the people of Iran and for anybody that's negotiating with Iran. Because there's nobody there that has an inkling about foreign policy and diplomacy. And I'll tell you, I've never been a Trumpite, but I was happy that Donald pulled us out of this deal. And it just proved that when he pulled us out of this deal, Iran went quickly into violating their options in the deal. There was nothing in the deal that said if somebody pulls out of it, we can do whatever we want. But that's what Iran did. As soon as we pulled out, they started violating the conditions of the deal. And then Trump increased the sanctions on them. So with Iran having violated all of the technical provisions of the deal, which was meant to stop them from getting a nuclear weapon, but the only way that's going to happen is if Israel keeps the pressure on them. Nobody else seems to be able to stop them from creating a nuclear weapon. And while they're a threat to Israel, Iran is a threat to the entire Middle East, with maybe the exception of a toady country here or there. And of course, Hamas and Hezbollah and those terrorist organizations are also beholden to Iran. So I would think that one of our diplomatic moves would be to quietly tell Raisi, if he doesn't get his act together, and if Iran is not a civilized country, maybe we'll take action against their oil fields. Because they don't make money anyway else. Whatever is driving their economy is based basically on their oil. So I think that this is a disaster for the world. So even though Iran has violated all of the technical parts of the Iranian nuclear deal, the ayatollah says that they want to get back into this deal. They want to return to the 2015 deal. But they want to return. They want the sanctions to go away. They want to be sanctionless. And I personally will not do anything like that. Stands right now, with Raisi as the new president, the talks in the nuclear deal are supposed to continue. I think that they're really going to go anywhere, since Iran wants us to get rid of the sanctions and they don't want to give anything in return. And what do they have to give in return? Nothing in my mind. They have nothing to give in return. They're a terrorist country and they should be treated as such. And so I don't think that there's anything really amazing about this new president, since the old Ayatollah is still there. I don't expect anything good to happen. Maybe there'll be a revolution. So that's all I have to say about that this morning. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.